Welcome to the Minding My Creative Business podcast, the number one podcast for creative entrepreneurs to learn strategy, structure, and sustainability and self development. I am your co host, Ron Ironically Jr.
And I am your co host, Shy Speaks. And today is going to be pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm resisting the urge to say it's going to be my favorite since I say that for all the episodes. But it's going to be pretty cool. Why? Because this is the season 5 recap where we give you an opportunity to kind of come behind the episode with us in case you missed it, and we give you nuggets and tips of what happened with some of the guests that you like. Yeah, listen, these are usually fire, so
Yeah.
stay locked in right here. And also, this is also pretty cool because our season recaps are always live. So if you are tuning in live, shout out to you, right? Feel free to drop us a comment because we are going to be interacting with you live. If you're listening to this on the replay or the audio version of the podcast, shout out to you as well. Please stay tuned. It's pretty fun, but also next time, make sure you hop on the live, right? So you can
Yeah.
be interactive and not just listen. But we always enjoy you listening, you listening, and we always enjoy you watching, however you tune in. So again, if you live, chop in. We're gonna make it interactive. Now let's get into this season 5 recap run.
Yeah.
First of all, season 5.
Season 5. Listen, that's what I wanted to highlight as well. I don't want us to brush over that because me and Shy, we are CEO, COO, and we're executives. So we're like in the weeds and we're keeping it moving and grinding and doing things. But sometimes we got to stop and acknowledge and celebrate. So not only is this season 5, but this is year 2 of me and Shy doing this. We started this in January. No, we published this in January of 2024, and we are now here in March of 2026. So we gotta clap it up for that though.
Come
We
on,
gotta clap it
come
up
on,
for
we
that.
gotta clap it up. That's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that is really crazy. Also, there's something really cool that happened at the 2 year mark. We realized that we've been experiencing entrepreneurship on our own, and then we've also been like going behind the brands of all these 6 and 7 figure creative entrepreneurs. And so we're like, okay, I think we have something here. I think we're gaining enough information that it's time for us to start sharing it back with our community, not just in conversation, right?
yeah.
These podcast conversations are really cool, but we want to invite creative entrepreneurs into something else because of the 2 years. Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah. So what we decided to do is we created a creative to CEO challenge to where we were like, listen, we can give more of ourselves based off of what me and Shy bring to the table, and then based off of these conversations that we've been having. So we like, listen, let's put it in this 5 day challenge. We're going to help those creative entrepreneurs that want to transition and transform where they currently are to that next level. So
Mhm.
if they're feeling stuck, they're feeling overwhelmed because they don't have the proper strategy in place, or they don't have the proper systems in place to support the sustainability that we know that they could and should have, we put together this challenge. So I mean, it's a dope challenge where creative entrepreneurs are going to walk away with a 90-day CEO plan on the page. And with that 90-day CEO plan on the page, we're going to help you generate reoccurring predictable revenue based on your signature offer that you're going to create within this 5 day challenge. So listen, I'm excited about it because it starts soon, right? It's like literally like from this recording, it starts in a week, right? So, I don't know when y'all listen to it, but we're going to have it to where it's a reoccurring thing where you can participate when you're ready. But we're encouraging you, be a part of this challenge because it's fire.
It really is. Sitting down creating this curriculum in commemoration of our 2 year was like something that was like intriguing for Ron and I to do. But we were also like, man, we're really giving them a lot in this 5 day challenge.
Yeah.
That's the part that was like, man, you really will walk away with some amazing stuff. And so like Ron, you were saying earlier, whenever you're ready. Like we say, whenever you're ready. If you miss this cohort, depending on when you watch, not this challenge, but depending on when you watch it, you'll always have the opportunity to join the wait list or join the very next
Yeah.
challenge, right? Because we want to keep them coming, keep them coming. Now, you ready to get back into it?
Yes,
Yeah,
let's get
let's
back
do it.
into it. Let's go into these episodes from season 5. And we were in Houston. We had the opportunity and the privilege of being in Houston for season 5 during Afrotech. And we just had some phenomenal guests. Like we started off the season with Jalea from Iconic Television, right? And she just was dropping so many gems and just hearing her journey to where when she was in what was it, 8th grade, she's like, when I was in 8th grade, I knew I wanted to go into media, right? And
That,
then starting from being in 8th grade to then having a chance to intern at a television company and just all the things that she did within that internship, all the skills that she developed, then to transition into owning her own television company or her own television network. Let me get the verbiage
with the
correct. Not a,
wording,
not a
right,
company,
right,
but a
right.
network, a
Which,
network that provides 24-hour 365 programming to people. And it was just dope hearing just her journey, right? It was like the epitome of creative courage, right?
man,
And it was like that courage took place before the ownership or before the opportunity, right? She set into
right,
who she
right.
was, and that's one of the things that highlighted to me.
Yeah, the creative courage. Mm, she it was she was definitely bold because
Yeah,
in order to take on a network, right? And for those of you guys who are in film, whether that's short film, long form movies, TV series, whatever it is that you're into, um, that's that's one thing to create the one program. But for
yeah,
her to try to reach out to all the people who are looking to get their program placed and provide 24/7 like programming on this like on this channel,
yeah,
that was that most people will be like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that.
yeah,
Like I don't know enough content. I can't find enough content. I don't know, and yeah. So creative courage is a word. That's I'm gonna stick with that. That's the theme of her episode.
yeah, yeah,
Really cool. Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, and then just even hearing how she didn't have the financing to buy the network, right? Her
Yeah.
her her character, right, allowed for the person that was selling the network, they was like, I saw what you did with the other network that wasn't yours. Like you deserve this network. I'm going to sell it to you for pennies on the dollar. I'm not even going to get what it's worth because he had a precedent situation that he had to deal with. Go back, watch the episode, but it was like, yo, and she didn't have the money to buy it, but she had angel investors, right? As we said, not even angel investors, they were angel donators, where they were based on how she handled that network and how she showed up and who she was character wise. They was like, listen, we'll give this to you because you deserve this based off who you've been consistently, how you showed up, how you handled somebody else's. Right now,
Yeah.
now it's time for you to move into ownership in your own. So here, take this. Don't even pay us back. We don't want nothing back. We just want to see you shine. Like that was like, man, that was phenomenal.
I, it's so much to that one that I don't even know what to say. Like
Yeah.
that's exactly literally phenomenal is the word. When I think about it, it reminds me of one of our previous seasons, and we kept seeing a through line with all these
Mm-hmm.
creative entrepreneurs, and that was they had this mentorship type of moment that whether they sought the
Yeah.
mentor or they were there for a job or whatever, there was this kind of breeding ground there. They had a Mr. Miyagi, if you will, that was
Yeah.
teaching them how to wax on and wax off, And so, but yeah, so ultimately, I feel like a lot of people shy away from doing the work. That's what she kept talking about in her episode. She was like, because they're like, I just want to start the thing. How you just want to start the thing? You don't even know how to do the thing. She
Mm-hmm.
said so when she did it, she started doing what she got hired for, and then she did almost every single role in the network, right?
Yeah.
That's putting in the work. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes we just like, I remember, matter of fact, I remember somebody personally coming to me, hey, I see you out here doing some of the influencer stuff, da, 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 da. They was like, just tell me what to do. And I was like, won't you, it'll be easier for you to come and help me, come and let me like follow me rather,
Yeah.
like shadow what I'm doing.
Hmm.
Right. As you shadow me, so much more will be taught, will be caught than I can just teach you.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to shadow me.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about this as it relates to me, because it's
Yeah.
not, but whoever the television network was for Jaleel Davis, our guest, it wasn't about that person. It was really about her. She wound up becoming the main character in her own story. But first, she was willing to shadow him, and so his inability to shadow, he didn't want to learn how to do the things. He just wanted to just start doing it. And it's like,
Yeah.
I guarantee you, he's still not doing it.
Mm. Nah, and listen, and that's real. Like she said, I did everything from cleaning the toilets to running the cameras to getting coffee. So that's a part of the matriculation. That's a part of the journey. Like I tell people, you can't go from A to Z. You can't just be like, oh, idea, okay, cool, and then end up at Z, the destination. No, you got to go A, B, C, D, E, F,
Yeah,
G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. You know what I'm saying? You got to go through the whole process. So
you just
yeah, no,
yeah,
that's huge. That's huge.
man.
And I
And I'm not
love the. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying that to say like that's everybody's path. Some people just start the thing. I
Yeah.
was with a musician Reese this past weekend. He's not just a musician; he also owns a production company and all that. And
Hmm.
so he's not the only person that runs the production company. He has a team of people that do that, but obviously he still knows how to play. And I was around two musicians like that, but he was saying how he never had to like work a job, so to speak.
Hmm.
But then again, too, he was raised around musicians, a musical family. Like his uncle played on these last $2. So technically, he always had a shadow shift there. So I say that to say I'm not just trying to emphasize going to work for somebody and shadowing somebody so that you can be somebody's, but I'm talking about you're going to have to shadow in some regard. And
Sure.
so how that shadowing led to her knowing so much that other people who were partnering her said, hey, we want you to be able to be the person to buy this network. So it was really a 2-for-1 episode. It was like spotlighting that shadowship, that mentorship, but also acquiring a company all in the same time.
Yeah.
It was a lot in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
all right.
No, I mean, like I said, and I know we can stay here forever, but yeah, we gonna move
Yeah.
on. So, but listen, go back, listen to the episode, or watch the episode. There was a lot of gems being dropped there.
Yeah.
Um, Next, we had the honor of interviewing Mr. Terry Williams, who is a Harvard right
Hmm.
certified mindset and high performance coach, right?
Hmm.
And just kind of hearing him break down his PGR framework was dope,
Yeah.
right? And I think, I mean, he didn't coin it that. I kind of coined it that. So it's like, don't forget, Terry. Listen, if you trademark that, just know where you got it from, right?
Yes. That PGR.
Yeah, that PGR. But no, that was phenomenal, right? Where he was just talking about, every client that he goes through, he takes them through that framework as far as helping them identify purpose, right? And just the importance
Yeah.
of purpose. And then not only purpose, but then it's like, okay, cool. Like now let's focus on your growth. You're here,
Yeah.
right? But now you're trying to get to here. And in that growth, there's discomfort in that growth. And that's okay because that's part of the process. But even in that, once again, going to that art and then learning how to rest. And like I said, because as creative entrepreneurs, CEOs, right, we have a tendency of focusing on hustle culture and grind culture, so we don't rest as much as we should. But he was like, no, I'm encouraging people to lean into that rest because it's like your phone. And that's the analogy that he gave. If your phone dies, right?
Yeah.
If you don't charge your phone, then it dies and it becomes useless. Same thing with you. If you don't
Yeah.
rest, rejuvenate, you know what I'm saying, recover, then you know,
There's that. Now,
burnout.
he wasn't. So, for those of you guys who are like, that episode sound kind of cool, rest. No, he's a mindset and high performance coach. So, he didn't just talk about rest. That's just one important aspect. He talked about purpose and growth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, he realizes when it comes to being a high performer, how does he know what it takes to be a high performer? Because he wasn't just Harvard trained, he also has worked for the NBA or for teams with the NBA, and he's
Yeah.
worked with athletes, like and personally training those athletes. And he started realizing that I'm not just personally training them, I'm actually working with them from a mindset level. And then in the season there's a certain mindset, but then in playoffs there's a certain mindset. And then in postseason there's a certain mindset. And then as it relates to like keeping my family going, there's a like so he's
Yeah.
constantly realizing that if you're going to perform at the highest level, you have to have a certain thing. That same thing showed up with high executives that he coaches, like other CEOs and executives. He was like, he realizes that in order to grow, you have to expose yourself to something that he called, not he called, it's a real term, you can look it up, it's called eustress.
Yep.
You remember that part?
Yeah, I remember
So
that. Yeah.
eustress is, I really recommend it for creative entrepreneurs because it is where you take on a something daunting, like a task that's going to it's going to be good stress. Ultimately, you stress is like good stress. It's like you're intentionally doing something that's going to press you and it's going to push you, but it's intentional
Yeah.
so that it can grow you.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
And it's not life altering, right? If you don't do this thing, it's not like you didn't lost $1 million and it's catastrophic, right? But it's just
yeah,
something to where it's like you said, if you burn, if you cook, you said you cooking a meal and you burn the meal, it's kind of messed up, right? You're gonna feel some kind of way, right? It's gonna keep you on your toes to make sure, okay, I gotta make sure that the temperature's right and all that type stuff, but it ain't
yeah,
catastrophic. But no, listen, I love that because I walked away with that. There is like, okay, what can I add? What you stress can I add to my life that's going to help to develop and build me up, right? Um, yeah, no,
yeah.
I like that. I like that a
And he
lot.
talked about some of them go to like CrossFit
Yeah,
training or some of
yep,
these intense, high intensity, high interval training, hit classes and things like that.
yep,
I'm not going there necessarily because I need to bulk up or beef up. I've already worked out, I already did that, but they're just going there because it's 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 to push their brain. But that's not just on the physical level, like you talked about with the with your cooking. And that's why I said I recommend it to creative entrepreneurs because a lot of times we start creating, we start monetizing all the hobbies. You know, I even had a part in the song I say I'm uh, ge- monetizing my hobby back and forth like this volley. Something I said, who knows? But the point is, I was talking about getting to the point where I started realizing, oh, I can make money off this, I can make money off that. But when I want to make money off of everything we do, perhaps you can do something that's creative, right? It doesn't have to be physical. You can
yeah,
go do something that's creative that you won't necessarily make money off of every day as you're doing it.
right,
But you may eventually make money off of, who knows? But it's the whole purpose is to expose yourself to good stress so that if it when it messes up, you know, it's like, dang, I don't want to mess up now because if I mess up, it's a big deal. It's a big waste of time. But it's also at the same time, it's okay, you know. So I encourage that. One of the tasks I'm taking on right now is I am writing a book. Now, I'm, that's not necessarily what you would consider. Come on, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not. That's not necessarily what you would consider like eustress typically, but it would be what you would call a big, hairy, audacious goal. And it's like this goal that you put in place so that you're working towards it. Like at the end of it's going to take a lot to bring it together. It's not a one time sit down process. Like if you bake a cake, you can sit down and do it all in one. But this type of goal is like you got to write it, edit it, get the illustration, the artwork, there's so much that goes into it. So my goal for this year is to publish a book. So that's a sort of use stress that's created for me. Now I don't want to get off into just what's going on in my life. I want you to apply these things to your life. But we talked about purpose. Purpose. We won't take time unpacking that P. We
right.
want you to go hear from him because it's again, it's Harvard back training. Like there's so much rich content, and it's not like all like word vomiting over you and super intellectual stuff. He
Yeah,
makes it very practical and
yeah,
very clear. And then the cool thing was not just what he was talking about, it's how he was able to monetize that, right? So we talked about Miss Julia Davis. We know that there's some money in having a television network. I mean, that's probably the obvious there and advertising, but he talked about being a mindset and high performance coach. Coaching, there's a business model to coaching. And he talked about coaching from a different perspective. Previously on the MMCB season. I can't remember which season. I think maybe three. Don't quote me on that. But we had a lady who was a coach, but she was a different type of coach, and she talked about coaching on the individual level. He talked about high performance coaching where you're going in and getting organizational and enterprise level contracts. Yeah. I'm telling you, you want to
Yeah.
go watch it.
Go
You want,
definitely go watch it.
I, yeah. Go ahead. You got
No.
something you want to say about that? Or you
No,
want to
no.
keep
Listen, you covered it. I mean, once again, we don't want to give too much because we want to encourage you if you didn't watch it to go back and watch it. But no, I mean Terry, because he hit it from so many angles, from him being a business owner and just as far as just resources. Like that was the first episode that we did. We opened up our resources to creative entrepreneurs. Um, our what's the word, segment, right? Where it's like we want to provide resources to you. So some of these, though he is a creative entrepreneur, that was a resource too, where it's like, okay, yeah, listen to the story, but listen to the tools that he's giving you, just so that you, as a creative entrepreneur, can be okay and be on point within here, your mind, your mental.
yeah, your mindset. Gotta get your mindset. Okay, moving on. Because it's not, yeah, like, yeah, it's not just your mindset, but it's also the 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 framework around how to be that type of coach for those of you guys who are creative entrepreneurs, movers and shakers that are interested in that. Now, when we talk about the next episode, that's an episode that was just with you and I. Let's kind of keep that one brief so we can get on to the next guest. Okay.
Definitely.
So, because we, again, you want to go watch this one. This one's episode 36, right?
Yep.
So it was meeting rhythms, thinking like a CEO. Meeting rhythms, thinking like a CEO. The reason why we thought this one was important because a lot of people who are newly into the creative entrepreneur space oftentimes came out of a job. And when you were at a job, that job could have ultimately had like boring meetings. And so you have this disdain for meetings. Unfortunately, though, not going to work for you now that you have become a CEO. You have to get into the point of establishing a rhythm for meetings. Go ahead, Ron, because you know I get excited.
No, definitely. And we talked about like the importance of those meetings and why those meetings are important, right?
Yeah,
It's like these are decision environments, right? If you're not meeting, then how are you making decisions, right? And sometimes you need to have a meeting of just one if it's just you, right? But then we also talked about, bringing other people a part of the meeting that needs to be a part, and we'll kind of give you that four, is 4 P's that we talked about later. But hold on there. Let me just I just skip. Let me just skip to that. Like I said, we're gonna keep this one brief. So we introduce you to the 4 P's, the framework. So it's purpose, people, process, and then the payoff or the product. So purpose. Why are we having a meeting? A lot of times people don't identify why they're having a meeting, right?
right,
So it's like, okay, we hear what's going on, and that people feel, and it's a lot of feelings and emotion that goes along with that because they don't know what's going on. Then the people, right? Do you have the right people in the meeting, right? It doesn't make sense on having a meeting with the wrong people because you're not being productive now. You need
right.
the right people. So identifying who needs to be in there, and then the
And-
process.
and
Go ahead, go ahead.
let's be clear. Just because somebody is on the team, we're like, well, they can be in this meeting. Not
Right.
everybody needs to be in every meeting. And
No.
some things that you're going to be discussing as a CEO may be above their pay grade. No, I'm just playing. But it may be above their security clearance. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
That's the military in me talking. But no, but seriously, it just may not. It just may be
Yeah.
outside of their scope of work, and they probably really don't care to be in there. Like
Yeah.
honestly, you're talking about marketing, and this person is an operations person. They'd rather go work on operations. Let's not tie people's time. So the
Right.
right people do matter. Um, and I know when you are a creative entrepreneur and you start getting in the habit of meeting, you want to just probably throw everybody all in one meeting and then just be like, let's just go brain dump. But it's like, no, we don't need to be on here. So that's something that you need to think through. Moving to the next P in the 4P framework was the process, right? The process. You have to have a process to your meeting.
Right. And that's just a lot of times it's an agenda, right? Your agenda is the process, right? Okay, we want to start here, we want to end here, and then those things in between. So you just want that smooth process and it be clear and it's communicated so that the people that are participating are can follow and be on track. And then what's the payoff, right? At the end of every meeting, there should be a payoff, whether it's been you had to communicate something or you had to get buy-in from the team or there's a call to action, right? So after this meeting, these are your tasks, these are your steps to get us to this goal. Like What's the payoff? There needs to be something. You should never walk away, or your people should never walk away from the meeting like, why do we, what was that about, right? Like, that should never be the case. And listen, I ain't gonna lie, I just left, I don't want to say corporate America, I mean in the nonprofit world, right? I just left there. And trust me, there would be meetings and I'm like, why am I in this meeting? Or what was the point of that, right? That should never be the case, right? So
Right.
yeah, make sure you have a clear payoff.
The payoff. What is it? And that's what people think the purpose is. What the no, the purpose of the meeting is to talk about whatever. But what is the payoff?
Payoff.
What is the product of this meeting? If there will be no product, there is no purpose. So we can just scratch all the P's. Okay. So seriously, you really want to go watch that meeting. We don't just talk about framework. We also talk about meeting. Um, we got into like the meeting rhythms that they need to have, right?
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
well. So it's not just a monthly meeting with all everybody. There are several other meetings you need to have, even with yourself. Mhm. So you want to definitely watch that one. Let's keep it moving. Episode number 37, we had Miss Shadera Naismith. She was with Stacked Up Academy. Stacked Up Academy is a nonprofit organization that focuses on exposing youth to, how would you put it? She's exposing youth
I
to,
want to. It's like coding and AI and yeah,
yes,
just that whole tech, right? It's like tech and like, and she started them off at an early age, right? That's one thing that had me taken aback. I'm like, wait a minute, you're teaching like preschoolers like tech language. You know, she created these flashcards, but she was like, yeah, it's like we've simplified it enough, but we want to start helping these young people understand this early, right? And then we can have a stacked that's what we call a stacked academy, but it's like a ladder approach where it's like, okay, we're going
mhm,
to hit them at this age, right, with this level, then the next level we're going to make that age appropriate, and just so forth and so forth. And no, it was just dope, and I love
yeah,
the fact where she really had to niche down what it is that she was doing or who her target audience was, because it was like, okay, everybody could benefit from it. But it was like, okay, do we want to focus on adults? Like, he was like, no, I want to focus on young people and be in very specific, like early education young people, right? So that was a highlight for me, with her identifying who her demographic
right.
and audience was.
Right. And I want to go back and clarify what you were saying when you said hitting them at different levels. She actually has the Stacked Up Academy have a Stacked Up conference
Mm-hmm.
for kids, right? But there's a certain group of kids is they're too young to come to the conference,
Right.
and there are a certain group of kids that are kind of like maybe starting to age out, you know. But it's like the for the kids who are too young, what is something that we could give them? And that's when she came up with that.
The
She
flashcards.
showed us in person. Like if you want to go on the episode, you'll see there's an ABC book, and you'll also see like, well, okay, well, how does having a nonprofit organization make you a creative entrepreneur? Well, when you look at how the creativity that went into the book creation, so that she can actually do the programming that nonprofit says that it does. See, a nonprofit can just do a thing without necessarily applying creativity to it. You could, some nonprofits, but there are some nonprofits, most of them that I know of, and the reason why we would consider them creative entrepreneur, there usually is a creative approach whereby they have to come up with different tools, books, materials, resources, events, all of these different things, so that they can drive home what it is that the cause that they're championing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and,
No.
and, and, and I wanted to bring up that what you meant by that is because on this age group, she has this product. For
Yep.
this age group, we have this product. For
Mm-hmm.
that age group, we have this service. And that ultimately bars right back down to entrepreneurship, which is the tiered level of pricing, right? Your small, your medium, your large, ultimately is what she has in
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. No. So check that out. But before we move on to this next episode, we're just gonna take a little sponsor break, right? So don't go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? We'll be right back in about 30 seconds, 60 seconds or so.
And
Based on you
we'll
listening to this podcast, you're probably a creative entrepreneur who's ready to stop hustling for clients and start building a business that runs on purpose, profit, and peace.
If that's you, we want to invite you to join the Creative to CEO Challenge, a 5-day live coaching experience designed to help you shift your mindset and develop the habits to turn your creativity into consistent cash flow.
And it's all happening live on Zoom inside a private community of ambitious creative entrepreneurs just like you. People who are done guessing, done grinding, and ready to build with clarity and confidence.
By the end of the challenge, you'll have a crystal clear direction on your next 90 days, a profit plan that fits your lifestyle, and the framework to start earning 10K plus months doing what you love without burning out or selling out.
So if that sounds like what you need, then tap the link in the description or scan the QR code if you're watching this on screen. And do not forget to upgrade to VIP for bonus coaching and behind the scenes Q&A every day of the challenge with me and Shy.
We can't wait to help you unlock CEO mode and the freedom you've been working for. Now, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, and just like that, we are back. One of the things that I was about to say right before we went on break is that, and when we come back, we'll be answering questions, taking live questions. So if you're tuning in live, please drop us drop a question in the comments, and we're going to incorporate that into this episode, especially pertaining to what we're talking about. So far we went over the season 5 recap. We have Jalea Davis. We had the high performance coach
Terry
with the
Williams.
PGR. Yeah, Terry Williams. And we had, of course, Shadarian Naismith is where we left off. And in the episode with Ron and I mean, we're really getting into it. We were talking about meetings, thinking like a CEO. And so as we go through these particular episodes and recap, if you had something that hits your mind, even if it doesn't have anything to do with it, maybe if it's applicable and we have time, we'll get to your question. We want to answer it right here live for this episode, so that as you're listening to it, you will be incentivized to come back and join us via the live, because you can get your questions answered in real time and be a part of the podcast. Speaking of being a part of the podcast, I got a question. We got a question from the live audience. We had a question from DJ J Lex, and she said, at what stage in my business planning would it be most cost effective, or most effective, not cost effective, to bring everyone together in one meeting? At what stage of my business planning would it be most effective to bring everyone together?
I would say at the beginning, right? Or after you say, okay, this is what it is that I want to do, right? When you solidify that vision, then I would say bring people in so that you can kind of, share with them, okay, this is what it is I want to do. This is my why, right? So you have your what and your why. Because then at that point, you may not know how to go about doing it. So then you can bring in other people to assist you in figuring out that how. I mean, that's what I say. What you say, Sha?
I agree, but I know it's so typical of you, because you're gonna say, like, get that vision, run, love, making sure you got that vision clarity. I know that's right. Get the vision together, get it clear. No, I agree. I think that a lot of times we want to hop out there and then just start doing the business, but it's like, get crystal clear on what you're doing, seriously, and what you will need help with, or what you think you'll need help with. And then, like, okay, this is, so you don't want to invite people into chaos, basically.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to invite them into chaos. You have a vision, and I want you guys to help me run with it. This is where you'll come in, and so forth and so on. So I would say, your first planning meeting probably needs to be with somebody who's a strategist, or somebody who's a coach, somebody who's a mentor, or somebody who you're just simply going to bounce the ideas off of. That's probably going to be the first couple of meetings that you're going to have. And then once you have that crystal clear vision, what you're doing, and you come to yourself and say, okay, here are all the people who I want to bring to the table. Now I want to start having an all teams meeting, just so everybody can introduce ourselves to each other, and then talk about, there needs to be a purpose though. But there also needs to be a product of the meeting. What are you getting out of the meeting? Hopefully that was helpful. And that is something that can be more so expounded upon if you go back and watch the episode, which is what we're encouraging you to do. That is episode number 36, Meeting Rhythms, Thinking Like a CEO. Now, let's keep it moving. And again, if you have questions, please drop them in the comments. We will incorporate them into this live episode. Let's go.
Definitely, definitely. And listen, make sure that y'all doing the things, the likes, the comments, and the shares and things like that. Right. This I'm gonna put that out there. But as she said, let's continue. So next we go on to episode 38 with uh Tolu Berry, owner of T Berry Films. Right. So this brother is um a Nigerian immigrant, right? But listen, he developed this passion for photography at a young age. His mom brought him a camera, right? He was doing like graphic design and things like that. So his mother
Yeah.
saw that he was creative, and she bought him this, this point and shoot camera. And then he said from there, he just fell in love with photography. And as he was taking photos, and once again, he stumbled across somebody being willing to pay him for his photography, and he was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I can monetize this. Like I can turn this into a business, right?"
Yeah.
And then he decided to turn it into a business, right? But one thing that stood out to me is that he emphasized that creative excellence alone, right, does not
Mm-hmm.
guarantee opportunity. Like he was
Mm-hmm.
real big on that. He was like, "Listen, there's a lot of talented and gifted people, but he was like, okay, how can I separate myself? How can I well, what can I bring to the table, right? That's going to help me stand apart, that people are going to remember me, and that's going to continue to either give me other opportunities or I can, increase their value as a customer, right? That's one
Right.
thing that really, 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 really stood out to me.
You know, and that was really important because he's particular about the camera. He said he
Yeah,
was studying the shutters, the ISO, the all the different terminology. He was saying so many. I didn't even know the camera had that many technical features. He was saying so many things, and so, I mean, for him, somebody who is a true technician, to realize that you have to position yourself, it really goes like that should really hit your mind. Like what does he mean when you say you need to position yourself? And he began to position himself in a certain way so that he can begin to attract, move from like that very first $50 he made to moving on to four-figure deals with regard to his photography and photography business. So
yeah,
before we finish this up, I just want to let you know we have another question from the live community. I'm telling you guys, if you're listening to this, make sure when we're live and we're doing our live episodes, hop in because we'll answer your questions. Now we're gonna get to that question, but let's kind of wrap up what we were talking about with Tolu because Tolu was pretty fire. He had that four-figure deal. Then he
yeah.
moved on talking about that five-figure
Five
deal.
figure, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
that means 1,000, 2,000, 8,000, 9,000. But then he moved on to tens and the 15s and the
right,
20s. And
yeah.
so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. No, and he talked about that came about as a result of him being able to develop and establish relationships, right? He was like, I made my customers and my clients feel comfortable. So there's one thing within the shoot, they feel comfortable with me there. I'm professional. I'm on time, right? I'm not late. I'm not delayed, and not only am I not late during the shoot, but when it comes to me delivering, right, the product, I have a system in which I deliver the product, and I deliver it on time. They're not having to wonder when is it being delivered. So it's like the anxiety and the angst that comes from the customer or the client. He was like, I was able to put them at ease, and as a result of that, that positions me in a place to where it's like, okay, I like working with him because I know that I can depend on him. I know what to expect. I know what I'm gonna get, opposed to it being different every time, where it's like, well, I don't know if he's gonna show up, or I don't know when I'm gonna get my stuff. Like, no, he was like, no, I was very intentional about those small things that a lot of times us as creators, if we being honest, like let's be real, right? Sometimes we may lack in. He was like, nope, I was intentional to not lack in those areas. So that created the positioning and the leverage for me to be able to develop these relationships.
Right, right. He also talked about just regular old likability too, with regard to that. Like bringing a positive energy to a situation. I like a lot of times people they think they can just show up with their skill, their talent, and that's but you rude,
Right.
you bring your skill and your talent, but you dry, You
Right.
bring in your skill and your talent, but you're not good to be around. You bring a damper to the environment. Like that's not gonna work. And so, especially with where he's going, he was talking about seeing a photographer friend make this much money, and then the next thing you know, they're making that much money, and they're working for these high end brands, and these brands bring them on for campaigns. You're talking about minimum campaigns of like $15,000, and this type of photography that goes on side of buildings and goes in Times Square, right? These are high quality footage. You got to bring the right energy to the situation. And so I just wanted to shout out that the meticulousness that he had with the skill and the strategic positioning, because ultimately, how do you wind up taking a picture that goes from your camera to on side of a billboard? Huh?
Right.
A New York Times billboard. How do you wind up in an editorial, a press magazine? How do you wind up in New York or Paris Fashion Week with your photography? You have to strategically place yourself, and that's what he was working on with his team. He had an administrator. I think he has like a 3-person team at
Yep.
this point,
Yep.
and one person's goal is to go and try to position him in the realm of business that he wants to be in. Another person is handling the administrative and the operation stuff on the back end. I think he had another person that may do some slight editing for him
Hmm.
because he knows that he wants to edit his stuff a certain way. He has the eye still, so but like that stuff is important. All of it is very important. Go watch the total episode if you're a photographer, videographer, and you're trying to go from the individual level, the $300, the 3-figure deals to like the 10-figure deals because he dropped a lot of gems. Last but not least, we had episode number 39. I'm sorry, that's not last but not least, because
No,
last but not least is
it
is
was
art.
ours. But you said you had a question before we go
Yeah.
to that one. Do you want to ask the question?
Oh yeah, I definitely see I said that. Told the community to chime in, and you almost didn't get your question answered. Yes, so we're gonna go to episode number 39, and then last but not least, the episode that Ryan and I did. So we won't stay there long on that episode that you and I did because I do want to make room for this question. The question asked is if people, right, if people understand your vision but does not help execute, at what point do you move on versus sticking it out, allowing time to grow together as a team? If they understand the vision,
Uh huh.
but they're not really helping you execute.
Oh yeah. I believe in they say hire slow, fire fast, right? And listen, this might not be somebody that you're necessarily paying. This might be somebody that you maybe put together a board of advisors or whatever. I mean, regardless of what it is, let them go because you're wasting to me, right? And this is Ron. You're wasting time and energy trying to get them to execute, right? It's like no. I don't have the time and energy because I have to do. I'm building this thing and you're slowing me down from building it because now I have to either do your job for you or I have to micromanage. If I got to micromanage, then why do I have you here? You want to find people that they understand the vision, but they can execute without you having to babysit or hold hands and things like that. Because once again, you as the creative CEO, you have things that you have to do. The reason why you brought them on is to be your hands and your feet and things like that. And like I said, that's I'm kind of it's a blanket statement. I'm sure there's more context to it, but just in general, that's how I work. That's how I'm responding.
I
Shy.
like the response. Hire, slow, fire, fast. I would say a lot of times we have to make sure it's not our lack of communication first.
Correct.
I always take responsibility and ownership for that. I encourage people to hire assistants, and I've helped people hire like virtual assistants. Like, where do I start? Where do I get it from? I can help you get with the whole process. But once you hire that person, right, and that doesn't have to be an assistant, that's an employee, somebody who you're collaborating with, you're working with, somebody who sometimes we haven't communicated what we expect of them to do. They get the vision, they're around, they're like, hey, I'm just around. But it's like, have you really communicated the expectation so that it's very clear on what you're supposed to do? And then if they don't do it, then
Yeah.
hire slow, fire fast, right? So because it's just gonna waste a lot of time because but the because sometimes like, well, that person is just they're doing it, but they're not quite no like it, if they're doing something but they're not doing it all the way well, verify first that it's not you as the leader who hasn't empowered them properly to
Yeah.
do their job, right? Have you empowered them? Because you want them to do a thing, but you hold all the keys. You're gonna have to take some keys off of your key ring
Yeah.
and let somebody else unlock the door, right? The person who owns Smoothie King is not unlocking the door every day at all the Smoothie Kings. Somebody else is unlocking, right? And I said it to say, so make sure you've given them the power, and then also make sure you've communicated well, and then get them to communicate back to you that they know what the expectation is. Like, hey, this is the vision. I know what I'm supposed to do. This is exactly what I'm gonna have done. I'll get it done. Now, if they say all that and you say all that and y'all are all systems go and they don't get it done, go with what Ron said: hire slow, fire fast, and move on quickly.
Yeah, no, I concur. Thank you, and I appreciate you. You adding that. Yes, there is a onus and responsibility that we take as the leaders to make sure that we've done our part. So I just assume that you did your part, but thank you for that. All
Yeah,
right,
that's
so
true.
all right, let's we gonna land this plane. We got two more episodes that we want to share with you guys and highlight. The next one, we had the pleasure of interviewing Kiara Dotson. Right, Kiara Dotson. She has been focused on the area of AI. Right, we know that a lot of things going on AI, and that's kind of like was her expertise. But she unpacked how internal clarity drives external authority, right? So we talked a lot about some of the tools that she shared, but then we also talked about a lot of stuff that goes on internally inside us as the entrepreneur or as the CEO. But that internal stuff, it translates external, right? So we got to start inward a lot of times with this work so that it can make its way out, right? Um, I like the fact that she shared some of the tools that she was using in this space. Um, I know some of the tools that I've used personal, right? That I've used as thought partners and things like that, like Claude and Manus is a new one. I remember her mentioning on there, just helping to be a thought leader and growing and developing in this space. So that was those are some of the things that stood out to me. What about for you, Shai, when it came to Kiera's episode?
Hmm. I think I was more so kind of like with Tolu. I was
Mm-hmm.
more so impressed with the level of understanding that she has about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, I think I've all too often saw people try to create a thing and they just know a little bit about it. Like they just kind of barely know. It's like, mm, you may want to have a deeper understanding
Mm-hmm.
about this as well. So I think I want to shout out to her for understanding the realm that she's walking in. Again, season 5 was filmed in Houston. We were at Afrotech. She was one of the speakers or one of the presenters, or she had a role there. You don't have a role talking about something, and she shared at other conferences as well, from what she told us, because she understands what she does pretty well. And so that was the thing that stood out to me. No, no, you know,
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have an understanding, okay.
Yep.
And then the other thing is, I would say her ability to get to the point with what she knows, that she says, okay, I've you got to move from like I'm still figuring it out,
Mm-hmm.
because it's technology,
Right.
is data, is
Yep.
AI. It's like this
Yep.
stuff is always ever changing. Technology is moving fast.
Yeah.
You're always gonna be figuring it out. But at this point, at this juncture, I'm qualified enough to lead from where I am.
Mm-hmm.
That was an aha
Yeah.
moment, right?
Yeah.
That
Yep.
that that's pretty cool. You got
Yeah.
to get to that point. Every creative entrepreneur needs to get to that point. Like maybe your deal is not in the technological field. You could even be in the in the cosmetology, but there are certain things in cosmetology are changing. The cut styles are changing, the color styles are changing, what people, different techniques people are using. There's always going to be something that's going and moving, but confidence. At this point, I know enough. Then the other thing was the data of how
Mm-hmm.
she was talking about using the data,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She talked about she understands the importance of data. She understands how companies are being driven by data, but she was talking about making it plain for creative entrepreneurs to know how to know what to look for.
Yep.
And I think that ultimately in the episode we landed on get you some KPIs, like
Yeah.
get you some key performance indicators, whatever those are. I'm sure that there's some data that needs to be associated with those. And then she talked about making data informed decisions, right? Sure, you can have your weekly meetings, you can have your team there to, and everybody putting their opinion in. But here in this episode, in walks data. And
Right.
then we're going to look at the data and we're going to let the data tell us and dictate to us what we should do. That's what I enjoyed about it. It's ultimately a resource of an episode. So I would just
Yeah.
recommend that you go check it out. It's not the fastest paced episode. It's a thinker. You want
Yeah.
to apply your mind to understanding data and to knowing like what data do I have? I mean, what data you you think you don't have any data, but you do. Every business does. We're always collecting something, and if we're not collecting something, you need to be collecting something that's tied to your key performance indicators that you're trying to watch, so that when you come to said meetings, when you come to said decisions, you're making data informed decisions. Let's keep it moving before we wrap up this episode. We said we we're going to end with episode number 40, which was the episode with you and I.
Yes. So the last episode, episode 40, was automate the ordinary so that you can focus on the extraordinary.
Yeah.
So this was one of Shy's. I know this is so when she said this is one of her favorites, this is definitely one of her favorites, right? Her being the systems and structure queen, right? So that episode literally focused on the importance of automating, and we talked about the importance of doing a workflow audit to be exact, right? To where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, go in and look at your workflow, audit so that you can then see what you can automate, delegate, or eliminate so that you as a creative and then you your creative business can elevate. Right. So yeah, I'm gonna let you. I mean, so for me, I know that was key because, like I said, we shared. I shared like my story when I met with a young lady that walked through my workflow audit, and it was like everything that I touched was red, and I'm like everything was red on the thing except for maybe one or two things, and she was like, "Yeah, you gotta come on, you're gonna burn yourself out. You gotta make some adjustments." But the episode was just dope. But I'm gonna let you lean in and kind of, you know, yeah, this your baby here. So go ahead, talk. What was your highlight? I mean, once again, I know we only we kind of we mainly focused on automation. There's other aspects, but that automation piece was very key that we linked in on. So yeah, go ahead and share yours.
Yeah. So I love what you're talking about. Auditing, do an audit of what your work is before you start trying to automate. But then when you start automating, the question then becomes what software, right,
Hmm.
am I going to use to handle this automation, right? And before you say, well, what software am I going to use to handle this, you're going to think about what am I touching repeatedly that can literally be done with technology. Like it can literally, we don't need a person to do this nowadays. Like there's we don't have to manually send out the email. Like once we manually write it, we can go ahead and schedule the email. That's a form of automation. I know people are like automation can get pretty complex, but this is what we mean. Sitting there, the timer I to sit there, look at it, go in, hit send. That can be scheduled, right?
Yeah.
So when you want to wrap your mind around what automation is, and so we are automating things that are ordinary, as in um, things that I'm touching repeatedly. Like if I'm doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, there's a chance that you should stop and look at it and be like, okay, what part of this process can be done through some type of software automation workflow trigger? I don't know. I hear people talking about those things, some kind of system that there's usually so many things that happen on automation that we don't really realize that how happen when we're interfacing with other companies. Like, if you're checking onto the plane, if you scan your boarding pass, it then does this. If you upload, like if you have people who have to submit a form, for example, like a survey to you to say that they enjoyed your product, then after they submit that survey, it automatically sends you can automatically send out, hey, thank you so much for doing this survey. You said something so well. We would like to ask if you do a video in exchange for the Starbucks gift card. Like there's some things that happen every time. Like whenever I do this, this happens. I was going back to the example of when you're at the airport. So much is happening on automation that you don't really realize it. Like scan this and then boop, 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 this happens. It's just so many things um, that are unlocking the other. So here's what I would say when you're thinking about automation. Automation is based on triggers and events, right? When I do this, what happens after? When I do this thing, it's going to trigger what event, right? When that person submits this survey, it usually triggers the event for us to send them an email. And then after they get their email, if they respond back with a video, we're going to also respond back with a gift card. Like this thing makes this thing happen, and that thing makes that thing happen.
Yeah.
This is where you start realizing where you can find automation. Hopefully I'm making that clear.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to talk about um, administrative tasks. A lot of times, those are some of the ordinary things, especially for creative entrepreneurs. They don't want to do
Yeah.
the admin stuff. You want to just go find you a manager, or you want to go find. So now you're paying somebody to do something that you really could have done with automation. Before you delegate the thing to somebody, think of, is it possible for me to automate this, right? And if you automate it, I'm going to have to find the software, and I'm going to shamelessly plug Savant Sync. It's a software that is a CRM and a sales system all in one. You can run funnels and automations and all of those things all within the platform. It's a platform that I am a founder of. And so go check it out, savantsync.com, and you can have a software that does all the automation. But ultimately, stop being busy doing a whole bunch of admin stuff and stop just trying to hurry up and delegate everything. Look at, is some of this stuff technologically triggering another technological thing?
Yeah.
If this form submission is triggering an email submission, is triggering a text message, then that stuff can be automated. I hope that helps you out. Hope
Yeah.
that makes sense for you guys.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's all about optimization, right? Yeah, I'm trying to optimize my workflow so that you as the CEO is not overwhelmed and it can still get done, right? So it's like instead of you having the octopus tentacles where you're trying to do 50 million things, it's like no, let's figure out what can be automated so I can go back to excelling at what I'm great at, right? So that mindset shift is going from I'm overwhelmed because I'm growing to I'm overwhelmed because I haven't optimized. So
Yeah,
okay, I need to optimize, so let me automate so I can do that.
right.
Yeah, and
Yeah, you can, and
yeah,
once you optimize, you'll realize you kind of eliminated some stuff off your plate.
exactly.
You may have not totally eliminated, but you eliminated it off your plate, and yet it's still getting done,
Yeah,
right? That's the thing. You want to make sure it's still getting done. And
yeah,
if you optimize, as we optimize, we scale. As we scale, we elevate, right? So these are all things that happen with automation. I was trying to stop myself from going too far in and nerding out. That's really what it was as I
right.
was talking about it. I was trying to make it simple. A
Yeah,
technological thing triggers another technological thing to happen. When you say technological, it's like, oh, what technology? No, an email, an SMS, something like that is
right.
happening. This a Slack channel is being sent. Something
A
is happening.
booking, right? Yeah,
Yeah, a booking is happening. Just
yeah,
it's simply put, a lot of things that you do on a day-to-day basis. Look at them and figure out before I start paying somebody else to do it, how can I automate it? Because ultimately, they may not even want to do it. It may be redundant for them. It may not even be a good use of their time.
Yeah.
Automation is not a bad thing. Automation has been around for from the beginning, and then there are some things you cannot automate. That's one of the things that we learned when we were talking to a guest of ours. She was saying she realized that she tried to have everything on autoresponder and all that, and sometimes people just need a human touch, but you cannot figure that out until you go in and audit, come up with a workflow, and begin to start working on your workflows and what can be automated. And after you figure that out, let me know
Right.
because I guarantee you I can point you in the right direction of how
Right.
to get it all systematized and set up. I've done it over and over again. So anyway, that's pretty much concludes season 5. I didn't think it was gonna take us that long to say all of it, but it was so much, you know.
Yeah, no,
Season
it was jam
five.
packed. Season 5 was jam packed. I mean, definitely one of my favorite seasons thus far. Houston, y'all showed out, right? We had some phenomenal guests that came through. So nah, yeah, nah, it was dope. Listen, I'm so excited because listen, we just filmed. I'm letting y'all in behind the scenes. We just filmed season 6, so season 6 is coming soon, and y'all gonna love season 6. But I'm not gonna talk about that because we still wrapping up season 5, and we want y'all to go back and, like I said, these episodes that we just talked about, go back and watch them. Leave comments on them. Ask questions, right? Like that's what we're here for. We want you to leave comments, ask questions. We're here to support you as you're on your creative entrepreneur journey, right? This is what this whole platform is for, to empower you as the creative CEO on your creative entrepreneur journey. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's what it's for. We are empowering creative entrepreneurs. How you like that, Ron?
No, listen, I love it. I love it. Listen, y'all don't understand. I left my 9 to 5 job to
So that
do
we can,
this, to
yes,
to to continue to build this platform for creative entrepreneurs, because me and Sha believe that creatives are make some of the best CEOs, and creatives build some of the best businesses, and you just have to learn how to mind your creative business because you focus so much on the creativity that you don't you don't develop the strategy and the structure so that you can be sustainable. So that's what this is all about. So like we're bought into this. Like this is what we're doing. So
yeah.
I'm telling y'all, hop on this train. It's because it's gonna be a dope ride.
and, and,
Like,
and also stop saying I'm gonna do it later. I'm
yes,
gonna work on my business stuff later, and then
yes,
you keep wondering why you're frustrated financially. Work on your. You need to start minding your creative business. And on that note, I actually want to end this episode with a mantra that we always say as pertaining to minding your creative business. This whole time, Ron has talked. I've talked. We talked about what the guests talked about. We encourage you to go back and watch episodes from season 5 because there's so much to glean there. But we want you to talk. We want you to hear yourself speak because affirmations matter. So here's what we're going to do. I want you to repeat after me. Everybody, we're going to say it all together out loud. Okay. If you don't say it out loud, I'm going to come through the screen into your phone. Now, I'm going to come through the screen and through your car, your audio, wherever speakers you listen to this phone. I'm coming, right? But no, seriously, here's what I want you to say. As we end this episode, I want you to say our mantra. Before I tell you the mantra, please, please like this episode. Please subscribe wherever you're listening to this at. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching all the way up to this point, listening to this point, you are the real MVP. And again, please join the 5-day Creative to CEO Challenge. Creative to CEO Challenge. There's some link somewhere around that you can get to that. I'm telling you, you definitely want to do it. Now, back to this mantra. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. All it takes
All it takes
is intention,
is intention,
consistency,
consistency,
and laser focus
and laser focus
to mind my creative business.
to mind my creative business.
And on that note, peace.
Peace.
Yeah.